My beloved child, I come not to command, not to correct, but to commune with the depths of who you are, not the self you present to the world, not the version you learn to polish and protect, but the part of you that you've quietly neglected, the place where your soul exhales only in silence, the ache that has no name but lives in every sigh. You've been walking through the days with practiced poise. You've smiled at the right moments, said the right words, served where needed, responded where expected, and yet under the rhythm of responsibility, a quiet voice within you has been asking, "But who sees me?" I do. Before the foundation of time, before your body took its first breath, before the first tear you hid, I saw you. I knew you would live through seasons where your strength would not be praised but presumed, where your weariness would not be questioned but expected, where your needs would not be neglected by malice, but by the mere assumption that you were fine. Because you always seemed fine. You always made it look easy. But I never mistook your functioning for flourishing. I saw the nights where your prayers turned into groans. I heard the conversations you rehearsed in your mind but never spoke aloud. I watched the moments where you poured yourself out only to find no one waiting to fill you back. You have carried burdens in silence, mistaking your ability to endure as divine endorsement. But endurance without intimacy is not obedience. It is slow erosion. I did not create you to carry what crushes. I did not anoint you to smile through silent depletion. So I come now, not with a new task, but with a divine unburdening. Let me whisper to the part of you that doesn't even know how to cry anymore. You've forgotten how much I love your softness. You've forgotten how safe you are with me. So I say now, you are not just seen. You are known, not for what you carry, not for what you accomplish, but for who you are when there's nothing left to prove. Even in your weariness, you are not wrong. You are not weak. You are simply wounded, and I don't fault you for the wound. I honor the places where you continued to walk even when no one acknowledged the limp. This right here is the beginning, not of another task, but of a divine pause. Can you hear me in the stillness? Before the notifications, before the deadlines, before the weight of being everything to everyone? Can you hear me now? I am here, and I'm not speaking with fire or fury, but with the tenderness of a father who never stopped waiting for you to stop, long enough to be held. Because somewhere along the journey, you equated being faithful with being busy. You equated being strong with being silent. You equated being spiritual with being emotionally unavailable. But my child, I never asked you to become a machine in my name. I gave you a heart. I gave you emotion. I gave you tears not to hide, but to water the ground of intimacy. I gave you needs not to shame you, but to bring you back to me. You've interpreted your limits as failures, but I see them as invitations. Invitations to return, invitations to breathe, invitations to collapse, not in burnout, but into my arms. Let me say this clearly. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lost. You are exactly where you need to. Before me to do what you could never do on your own, to restore what performance tried to steal, to uncover the real you beneath the roles you've worn, to remind you that I never loved you for your output. I loved you for your essence, for your softness, for your yes, even when it trembled, for your willingness to show up again and again and again, despite the quiet ache that lingered just beneath. Your smile, you've survived long enough. Now it's time to be sanctuaried, not hidden away from the world, but hidden in me. Not isolated, but insulated. Not performing strength, but becoming whole. Let's be honest, you've lost your rhythm. You've mistaken momentum for alignment. You've confused urgency for anointing. You've called the chaos your calling. And somewhere in the middle of it all, you stopped noticing how heavy it had become to pretend you were okay. But I noticed. And I wasn't angry. I wasn't disappointed. I was just waiting. Not for your collapse, but for your consent. Will you let me speak to the parts of you that learned how to survive, but forgot how to be nurtured? Will you let me touch the places where identity got tangled in obligation? Will you let me undo the pressure you wrapped in theology and called obedience? Because, my child, I want more for you than endurance. I want you whole. You don't need to be stronger for this next season. You need to be softer. You don't need a greater capacity to manage chaos. You need a greater intimacy with me. I'm not asking you to climb higher. I'm inviting you to sit lower, at my feet. Come to me. Not as the leader, not as the helper, not as the answer. Just come as the child, the one who misses being held, misses being known, misses being delighted in for no other reason than simply existing. Let me say it again. I see you, and I am not in love with your production. I am in love with your presence. You don't have to write one more plan. You don't have to check one more box. You don't have to impress one more person. You just have to let go. Let go of the weight I never gave you. Let go of the pressure you confused with purpose. Let go of the silent vow that said, if I stop, everything will fall apart. That's not faith. That's fear dressed in spiritual language. And I'm breaking it off of you now, because this is not about exhaustion. This is about encounter. So here is your new invitation. Come breathe again. Come laugh again. Come be confused and curious and human, and let me be God. You are not disqualified because you're tired. You are not disobedient because you're overwhelmed. You are simply ready for me to reclaim the version of you that isn't chained to duty but dances in delight. This is just the beginning. My child, now that you've paused long enough to breathe again, I want to take you further, not forward, into doing but deeper into being. You see, I'm not interested in helping you return to a slightly more manageable version of exhaustion. I am not preparing you to handle more, to perform better, to stretch wider. I am preparing you to belong. Because what burned you out was not the tasks in front of you, but the belief that you were only as valuable as what you could produce. You thought your worth came from your usefulness. You thought your belonging came from being needed. You thought your security came from always having the answer. But I never measured you by your function. I never fell in love with your checklist. I never asked you to be enough for everyone else. I only asked you to be mine. So let me speak into the lie. Let me peel it back until you can see its origin. Because if we don't expose where it began, you'll spend your life managing symptoms of a belief I never placed in your spirit. That lie, it started in moments no one else saw. Maybe it was when you succeeded and someone praised your strength, so you thought being strong was the only way to stay accepted. Or maybe it was when you showed emotion and it made others uncomfortable, so you learned to suppress your needs to protect their peace. Maybe it was when you asked for help and help didn't come, so you stopped asking. Maybe it was when you were praised for pushing through, even when you had nothing left. They called it admirable, but I call it unattended grief. You didn't fail by becoming strong. You survived. You adjusted. You adapted. And I honor the child in you who thought that was the only way to be safe. But now, I'm inviting you to trade strength for safety. Not the kind that comes from control, but the kind that comes from communion. You are safe to need, safe to feel, safe to ask, safe to not have it all together. You've seen me as your taskmaster for too long, but I'm your father. I'm your source. I'm your rest. I'm not standing at the finish line cheering you to keep running. I'm walking beside you whispering, you can stop now. Stop measuring your value by how much you can endure. Stop assessing your progress by how exhausted you feel. You are not meant to be drained by your destiny. You are meant to delight in it, and if the assignment doesn't allow space for your soul, then the assignment is not from me. You are not called to lose yourself in ministry. You were not created to sacrifice your health for consistency. You were not formed in your mother's womb to build a life that empties you just to appear fruitful. Do you want to know what real fruit looks like? It looks like peace. It looks like presence. It looks like joy returning where dread used to live. Fruit is not found in the speed of your schedule. It's found in the softness of your soul. And I am softening you again, not to weaken you, but to awaken you. You are not late to your calling. You are right on time for your healing. You've spent years trying to sustain an image of what faithfulness looked like. But faithfulness without intimacy is a counterfeit. And I want you to know what it feels like to walk in rhythm with me, where obedience flows from love, not fear, where peace governs your decisions, where your boundaries are not rebellion, but reverence. Let's talk about your boundaries. Let's talk about how you said yes when your soul was screaming no. Let's talk about how you silenced yourself because you didn't want to disappoint. Let's talk about how you sacrificed your rest to prove your devotion. Let's talk about the vow you made that no one else heard. If I don't do it, it won't get done. That vow, that's not trust. That's trauma, and I am breaking it now. You are not the only one holding things together. That job belongs to me. So I say this with gentleness and authority. You can put it down. Put down the mantle of self-preservation. Put down the pressure to be perfect. Put down the belief that you are loved for what you do. Let me take you back to the truth. You are not a project to fix. You are a person to be loved, and I love you. Not the polished version of you. Not the productive version. Not the spiritual leader version. Not the resilient, strong, capable version. Just you. You, when you're overwhelmed. You, when you have nothing left. You, when you're still in the middle of healing. I don't need your healing to be complete before I hold you. I don't need your confusion sorted before I call you mine. I am not watching from a distance, waiting for you to prove that you're ready. I'm sitting beside you now saying, you already belong. You belong even when you're unsure. You belong even when you're not the strong one. You belong even when you're not helping anyone else. You belong even when you're not okay. I am not glorified by your burnout. I am glorified when your heart turns back to me. I didn't create you to live with a quiet ache. I created you to live fully alive. So no, this isn't about powering through. This isn't about finding new strategies to survive. This is about letting me resurrect what you buried. Your joy, your wonder, your hope, your permission to be small, your childlike awe that once looked at the stars and whispered, "You're here." Do you remember? Do you remember how it felt when your faith was simple? When your prayers weren't polished but honest? When you trusted me without needing to understand everything? When the point wasn't what you could do for me, but what it felt like to be with me? That's what I'm calling you back to. That's what I'm restoring. Let go of the lie that says you have to earn your place in my presence. You're already there. Let go of the voice that says if you stop, you'll lose your significance. Your significance was never in your doing. It was always in your being. You are my child, not my employee, not my machine, not my ministry manager, my child. And I want to teach you how to live again, not from your hustle, but from your heart, not from your fear, but from your fullness, not from your trauma, but from your truth. You were never meant to be a hero. You were meant to be held. So come back to the garden. Come back to the quiet. Come back to the place where I walk with you in the cool of the day, not to assign you, but to enjoy you. Let me be enough for you again. Because when I am enough, you'll finally stop trying to be. My child, now that you've heard me call you beloved, now that the tears have begun to water the dry ground, I want to take you into the next part of your healing, the undoing. But hear me carefully. This is not the undoing of your worth. This is the undoing of what never belonged to you. This is the sacred unraveling of patterns, pressures, and roles you were never meant to carry. You see, healing is not just a return to peace. It's a return to truth. And the truth is, there are parts of your life that have been built on survival, on systems of self-protection, on vows you made in the dark to never be weak again, to never need too much, to never fall apart in front of anyone. But those vows, though they once felt safe, have now become prisons, and I have come to unlock the doors. Because I love you too much to let you live behind walls you were never created to build. Walls made of strength that never rests. Walls built from words like, "I'm fine," when you were breaking inside. Walls reinforced with smiles that covered your silent scream for help. So now I say, let it fall apart. Let the mask fall. Let the image crumble. Let the idea that you always have to be okay dissolve in the presence of a father who doesn't need you fixed, only faithful enough to be honest. I won't shame what's breaking. I will sit in the rubble with you until we rebuild on something real. Let's talk about your normal, the version of life you adjusted to without asking if it was healthy. The way you normalized being tired, normalized being anxious, normalized being overwhelmed. You called it maturity. You called it faith. You called it being a responsible adult. But I call it burdened. And I never asked you to bear what makes you shrink. I never asked you to keep performing when your spirit is weary. I never asked you to build a schedule that silences your soul. You adapted to dysfunction so well that you forgot what peace feels like. You forgot that silence isn't always scary. It's sacred. You forgot that slowness isn't laziness. It's intentionality. You forgot that healing isn't a destination. It's a daily decision to come back to me. So let me lead you now, not into more doing, but into a holy undoing. Undo the need to be the strong one. Undo the narrative that says your softness is a weakness. Undo the belief that your emotions are inconvenient. Undo the pattern of overgiving to stay significant. This undoing is not regression, it's restoration. Because in my kingdom, you don't have to keep what breaks you to feel useful. You don't have to keep pace with a culture that equates worth with exhaustion. You don't have to hold up appearances when your heart is crumbling quietly. You were never meant to be a silent sufferer. I gave you a voice, not just to sing praises, but to cry, to question, to express what religion told you to suppress. Let me be clear. I'm not offended by your pain. I'm not surprised by your confusion. I'm not moved away by your fear. I sit in it with you. I do not love a future version of you more than the present one. I do not wait at the finish line with approval. I walk with you, weep with you, breathe with you in the places you thought were too messy for a holy God. Because I am not holy in a way that demands perfection. I am holy in a way that redeems what's broken. So come break before me. Come fall apart without apology. Come cry without explanation. Come lay down the narrative that says, you have to look strong in front of me. Do you know what real strength is in my eyes? It's the courage to collapse into grace. Let's look together now at the places where you stopped hoping, at the dreams you buried in the soil of disappointment, at the promises you shelved because you were afraid to believe again. They didn't die. They were preserved. You thought your delay was denial. You thought the waiting meant rejection. You thought my silence meant absence. But I was with you all along, preparing the ground not just around you, but within you. Because if I gave you the promise before the healing, you would have built from pain. You would have constructed altars out of need instead of intimacy. You would have led others from empty places, calling it purpose. But now, from this undone, emptied place, I can pour into you again. And this time, it will last. Because it won't be built on pressure. It will be built on presence. Let me speak now to the rhythms that wore you out. You don't have to rise early every day to prove discipline. You don't have to pray for hours to earn access. You don't have to carry everyone's burdens to justify your anointing. I am not calling you to perform spirituality. I am calling you to practice communion. Sit with me again. Not for a result, not for a breakthrough, just to be. Let that be enough. If you never preached again, would you still believe I love you? If you never served another person, would you still believe you matter? If no one ever recognized your strength, would you still believe you're significant? These are the questions I'm asking. Not to shame you, but to reveal what you've tethered your identity to. Because when you know who you are in me, you won't burn out trying to convince others. You'll walk in freedom. You'll speak from fullness. You'll give without guilt. You'll rest without explaining. This is the rhythm of wholeness. And now that we're here in the undoing, I will not rush you. I will not demand that you bounce back. I will not treat your healing like a project. I will not pressure you to produce while you recover. Instead, I'll keep whispering, you are safe now. You don't have to hide anymore. You don't have to fight for approval. You don't have to pretend strength when all you feel is the tremble. Even your trembling is precious to me, because trembling means you're finally feeling again. And to feel is to be alive, and to be alive is to be mine. Let this undoing do its work. Let me rewire how you define success. Let me reintroduce you to simplicity. Let me remind you that peace is not passive, it's power, and it's yours now. This is not the end. This is the soil. And the next thing I grow in, you won't look like what you've built before. It will be lighter. It will be truer. It will be rooted in rest, not rush. Rooted in me, not in expectations. Because I'm not just breaking cycles. I'm building sanctuaries, and the first sanctuary is you. My child, now that the undoing has begun, now that the walls are coming down and your heart is learning how to breathe again, I want to show you what comes next. Rebuilding, but not the rebuilding you're used to. This won't be a rush to recover. This won't be the familiar impulse to catch up. This is not the part where you put on your shoes and run back into the world with renewed energy, trying to prove your readiness. This is where we rebuild from rest. You've built so much from urgency, from need, from pressure, from the belief that if you don't move, you'll be forgotten. If you don't act, you'll lose ground. If you don't prove, you'll lose your place. But I say to you now, you are already placed. You are already seen, you are already held. So let's build something that lasts. Let's build a life that doesn't require your collapse to get your attention. Let's build a rhythm that honors your humanity and reflects my divinity. Let's build not with your striving, but with my spirit. I know that you're afraid to slow down. Afraid that if you rest, you'll miss your moment. Afraid that if you stop answering every call, you'll fall behind. But my child, I am your moment, and I don't operate on fear's timeline. When I build in alignment, not anxiety. When I open doors, you won't have to sprint to keep up. You won't have to bend yourself to fit through them. You'll simply walk in peace. Because this time the fruit will be light. Not light in impact, but light in burden. You're used to associating impact with exhaustion, but I'm teaching you now, what comes from me will never crush you. My yoke is easy, my burden is light, and if what you are carrying feels heavier than grace, it is time to put it down. Let me show you how. Let me show you how to discern again, not just what is good, but what is God. Because you've said yes to too many good things that were never your things. You've invested in voices that celebrated your gifts but overlooked your soul. You've partnered with opportunities that pulled you out of alignment with peace. But no more. From now on, we move at the speed of peace. From now on, your yes comes from clarity, not guilt. From now on, your no is not rebellion. It is reverence for what I'm restoring. Don't let the world define your effectiveness. Don't let culture tell you that quiet is wasteful. Don't let your mind convince you that rest is unproductive. Rest is where I speak. Rest is where I reveal. Rest is where you remember who you are without all the layers. You are not lazy. You are learning to live again. You are not selfish. You are finally listening to what I've been whispering beneath the noise. I want your soul more than your service. So here's where the rebuild begins. In the morning stillness, when you choose to listen before you labor. In the sacred no, when you trust me to handle what you've released. In the quiet pause, when you ask me, is this mine to carry? In the bold boundary, when you refuse to trade peace for pressure. This is your new foundation. Not performance, not perfection, presence. And in this place of presence, I will teach you how to see again, to see the beauty in what once felt mundane, to hear my voice in the quiet breath between tasks, to notice my nearness in the places you once rushed past. You'll start recognizing what brings peace, not just what brings praise. You'll start feeling discomfort when old patterns try to return, and you'll pause. Not out of fear, but out of reverence for what we're building. You will no longer say yes just to avoid the discomfort of being misunderstood. You will no longer apologize for needing time, space, or stillness. You will walk with wisdom. You will lead from overflow. You will move with clarity. And that clarity will come from communion. I am not rebuilding you into a better version of the one who burned out. I am rebuilding you into the version of you that was never meant to break. The you who leads with peace. The you who honors your soul. The you who no longer sees stillness as shameful. The you who lives in rhythm with me. Because I am not asking for your strength, I am offering mine. I am not asking you to carry more, I am asking you to carry it differently. With me. Let's talk about what that looks like. It looks like praying with honesty, not eloquence. It looks like letting your tears be your worship. It looks like inviting me into your daily rhythms, not just your crisis moments. It looks like trusting that what I have for you will not require the sacrifice of your sanity. It looks like recognizing when the Holy Spirit grieves over the pace you've accepted as normal. And when you feel that grief, don't ignore it. That grief is your signal. That tension is your teacher. That pause is your protection. I want to give you a heart that listens again, not just to instructions, but to me. Because if your obedience doesn't come from intimacy, then your actions may be accurate, but your soul will still be aching. But when you move from communion, everything changes. You won't have to force open doors. You won't have to manipulate outcomes. You won't have to prove your worth. You'll walk into rooms with confidence, not because of who notices you, but because you know who sent you. You'll carry peace like oxygen. And those who come near will notice you are no longer living to be needed. You are living to be nurtured. You are living as one who knows, I am deeply loved by God, and I am no longer afraid of the quiet. My child, now that the foundations are shifting, now that you've allowed me to untangle your value from your performance, I want to reintroduce you, not to the world, but to you. The true you, the one buried beneath the urgency, the one silenced by expectation, the one who didn't forget me but who forgot how to simply be. This is the holy reintroduction, not a new identity, but the original one, the one I whispered over you before anyone told you what you had to be. Before titles, before trauma, before timelines, before tasks, you were mine. Still are. Still will be. Forever. And I don't want the version of you that everyone needs. I want the version of you that needs me. The version that breathes easy. the one that doesn't apologize for softness, the one that loves slow mornings, long silences, and deep thoughts that don't always need conclusions. You have forgotten that you are more than your gift. You are more than your role. You are more than the weight you've learned to carry. You are a person, a soul, a living reflection of my image, not crafted for noise but for knowing, not built to impress but designed to abide. The true you knows how to rest without guilt. The true you doesn't measure your value by applause. The true you isn't afraid to be overlooked because you know you've already been seen. You've worn so many layers and you wore them well. The reliable one, the capable one, the spiritually strong one. But now I am peeling them off, not to leave you naked in the eyes of man, but to clothe you in something better, in truth, in peace, in my covering. Because the true you isn't someone you need to perform, it's someone you need to permit. Permit her to say no, permit him to need help, permit her to cry without fixing, permit him to dream again, permit yourself to live as though you are not responsible for holding the universe together. Because you're not. That's my job, and I've never once needed you to carry me, but I've always longed to carry you. So let's strip away what never came from me. The self-protection that looked like wisdom, the burnout that looked like boldness, the exhaustion you mistook for holiness, the fear you covered in strategy. Let's let it all fall, because what's left will not be fragile. What's left will not be fake. What's left is you. Healed, whole, unrushed, uncomplicated, unafraid to be seen without the armor. You don't have to rehearse anymore. You don't have to brace anymore. You don't have to prove anymore. This is not the part where you gear up for more work. This is the part where you take the long exhale and say, I'm still here, still beloved, still called, still safe, still chosen. And that truth, unshaken by seasons, unmoved by performance, that truth will become your compass. You'll know what is yours not by pressure, but by peace. You'll know what is alignment because it won't require your soul to shrink. You'll feel the difference, and that is your new discernment. Not just who honors your gift, but who honors your healing. Not just what fills your calendar, but what feeds your soul. Not just what says, go, but what whispers, grow. Because you don't need to be busy to be blessed. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be seen to be significant. The true you moves at heaven's pace. Still, sure, saturated in grace. Let me show you what happens when you walk in this restored identity. You begin to say no with no shame. You begin to walk away from what drains you without feeling guilty. You begin to notice what steals your presence, and you protect it like a sanctuary. You stop being drawn to chaos. You stop responding to urgency as if it's divine. You stop negotiating your rest just to meet someone else's demands, because you finally know you are not here to be consumed. You are here to be cultivated. So I'm removing the lie that said people are only safe when you serve them. You're allowed to be held. You're allowed to receive. You're allowed to be the one who leans. You're allowed to be slow. You are not failing if you're healing. You're not weak if you're real. You're not selfish if you need space. You're not difficult if you say no. You're not rebellious if you no longer conform to a rhythm that starved your soul. You are becoming, and that's the bravest thing you've done. So don't rush this season. Don't explain it away. Don't dilute what I've done in you just to be more acceptable to those who only knew the version of you that never stopped moving. Let me be your witness. Let me be your validation. Let me be the voice you listen to when doubt tries to dress itself as duty again. And when it does, return to this truth. You are not called to carry the world. You are called to carry my presence, and my presence does not exhaust. It restores, it renews, it revives, it reintroduces you to you. So now walk in that, not faster, not louder, not harder, just fuller, because the true you is finally free. My child, now that the real you has returned, now that the quiet within is no longer empty but alive, I want to show you something most of the world forgets. Wholeness is not a season. It is a way of life. You were never meant to live on cycles of crisis and crash. You were never designed to pour until empty and then wait for me to refill you once you're on the edge. I didn't call you to survive. I called you to remain. Remain in me. Remain in love. Remain in peace. This is not temporary. This is not a phase. This is a new way of being, and it will cost you your addiction to pressure. It will cost you the high of being needed. It will cost you the identity you once built in being the answer. But what I give you in return is weightless wonder, sustainable joy, authority that comes from being rooted, not rushed. Because wholeness is not flashy. It's not loud. It's often unnoticed by others, but unmistakable to your own soul. It's in how you no longer panic in silence, how you no longer say yes to avoid being misunderstood, how you no longer serve out of compulsion, but out of communion. Wholeness is when you wake up, and your first thought is not a to-do list, but a surrendered, here I am. It's when peace becomes your default, not a reward for exhaustion. It's when your boundaries are no longer defensive but sacred, because you've stopped protecting yourself from being broken and started preserving what has been healed. Let's speak plainly. You will be tested, not with tragedy but with old rhythms, old mindsets, old voices. They will call to you, not in anger but in familiarity. They will say, just this one time, stretch a little more. Just this once, say yes even though you don't want to. Don't rock the boat, keep the peace. But I will be right there, and I will whisper, you don't live there anymore. You don't need to shrink for peace. You don't need to bend for acceptance. You don't need to silence your needs, so others won't feel uncomfortable. You're not here to manage everyone's expectations. You're here to walk in the clarity of who you truly are. So when the pressure rises again, when urgency tries to sneak back into your calendar, when fear whispers that rest is risky, when guilt knocks on your door wearing the face of obligation, pause. Just pause. And in that pause, you'll remember, you are not who you used to be. You don't have to respond the same way. You don't have to explain your peace. You don't have to apologize for how little the old systems move you now. The stillness in you is not neglect. It's mastery. It's evidence that heaven has had its way with your inner world. And that's what I want to talk about now. The mastery of stillness. Because this is how you maintain the life we've been rebuilding, not by perfection, but by consistency. Let the little moments matter. A single deep breath before you speak, a short prayer before you act, a no that feels awkward but true, a moment of silence where you used to fill space with performance, a walk, a nap, a verse slowly read instead of quickly studied. These are not small. These are sacred steps. They are how your soul stays whole when the world wants to fragment it again. You see, the world will always push for more. But I have never asked you to be more. I've only ever asked you to be with me. And in being with me, you become clearer. You become calmer. You become kinder. You become more grounded, more gracious, more free. And eventually, you become so full that the overflow begins. People will notice. Not because you tried to shine, but because my peace in you will glow. They will come for your counsel, not realizing it's your quietness that holds power now. They will seek your wisdom, not understanding it's not from striving. It's from stillness. And they'll ask you, how are you so steady? And you'll smile. Not in pride, not in pity, but in the deep knowing. Because I stopped surviving and started abiding. That will be your story, your testimony, not of meteoric success, but of unshakable serenity. Let me say this plainly. You will go further now than you ever did in chaos. You will bear more fruit now than you ever did in burnout. Because this time you are building with me, not for me, not on behalf of me, not trying to impress me, but with me, hand in hand, breath by breath, decision by decision. So let's anchor this now. Let this be your declaration. I am not going back to a life that drained me. I am walking forward into one that fills me. I am giving you permission to protect your pace, to reject urgency, to refuse anything that demands your presence but dishonors your personhood. You are no longer a vessel to be used. You are a child to be cherished, a soul to be nurtured, a temple of my spirit. This is wholeness, and it is your new home. Welcome, my child. Now that you've entered into wholeness, now that peace is not just a moment but a mindset, it's time to talk about rhythm. Not the rhythm you inherited, not the rhythm you adopted to survive, but the rhythm of grace, the cadence of communion. Because living whole is not about intensity, it's about alignment. You've lived in rhythms that drained you, rhythms dictated by performance, by people-pleasing, by proving. They trained you to move faster when you should have paused, to give more when you were already empty, to push forward when your soul was asking to sit still. But I am setting a new tempo, not fast, but full, not pressured, but prophetic. This rhythm starts and ends with presence. No more waking up to a flood of urgency. No more jumping into obligation before you breathe. No more apologizing for choosing stillness. No more spiritual busyness masking soul starvation. You are not required to earn your rest. You are invited to live from it. So here's how this rhythm flows. Stillness before strategy. Worship before work. Presence before pressure. Listening before leading. Peace before plans. Because when you walk with me, you no longer need to rush to be fruitful. You need only remain. Let me teach you the holy habit of margin. Leave space in your day to be interrupted by wonder. Leave space in your schedule to feel what you're feeling. Leave space for me to speak, not in fire, not in thunder, but in gentle clarity. Margin is not waste. It's worship. It's your way of saying, God, you are more important than what I produce. And in that space, I meet you. I speak to your thoughts before they spiral. I whisper truths before the world can shout lies. I remind you of who you are before you try to become someone else to be accepted. Because this rhythm isn't about building a life that looks good. It's about living a life that feels like me. So pay attention to how things feel. Does this bring peace or pressure? Does this invitation honor your healing or threaten it? Does this person speak to your purpose or only pull from your productivity? You now have permission to choose alignment over approval. You now have the grace to walk away from what glorifies chaos. You now have the wisdom to know that busyness and fruitfulness are not the same. Let me be very clear. You do not have to attend every crisis. You do not have to solve every need. You do not have to respond to every message. You do not have to show up to prove your love. Sometimes obedience will look like staying still while the world runs in circles, and I will be pleased. You don't need to be the center of every solution. You need to be centered in me. That's your real assignment now, to remain centered. Not in your to-do list, not in your calling, not even in your dreams, but in me. Let me be your rhythm. Let me be the one who wakes you gently, guides you quietly, and settles you deeply. Because I am not asking you to move fast. I am asking you to move faithfully. And faithfulness is not defined by exhaustion. It is defined by presence. Let's take this deeper. From this rhythm, you will begin to notice shifts. You will notice that when you are rushed, you feel disconnected. When you overcommit, your clarity fades. When you overextend, your creativity dulls. When you say yes too quickly, you begin to forget what peace sounds like. But when you return to rhythm, even quietly, even imperfectly, you remember. You remember what it feels like to breathe in grace and exhale striving. You remember that productivity doesn't define your progress, that fruitfulness is often invisible before it becomes evident. Let me assure you, you are still progressing, even when it's not visible, even when it's quiet, even when it's slow. Because in this rhythm, progress looks like peace, healing looks like boundaries, faith looks like rest. You don't need to fear slow seasons. They are not punishment. They are preparation. They anchor you. They form you. They teach you to discern between what's urgent and what's eternal. Let me say it clearly. I am not rushing you. I am rooting you. Because a life that's rooted in me cannot be swayed by every opportunity, cannot be shaken by every opinion, cannot be moved by every demand. And when you are rooted, you will begin to recognize my rhythm in places you didn't before. You'll find me in the pause between tasks. You'll hear me in the laugh you didn't schedule. You'll sense me in the quiet refusal to rush back into chaos. You'll know I'm near when your soul no longer clenches at every need. This is not detachment. This is discernment. You are learning that the world will survive even if you are unavailable for a moment, and that revelation is holy, because only when you detach from the pressure can you attach to my presence. So here's your next step. Don't just believe this rhythm, live it. Make it your practice, make it your protection, make it your praise. Walk slower, speak softer, notice beauty, sit longer, feel deeper, listen more, and above all, let me lead. Because as long as I'm leading, you'll never be late. You'll never be lost. You'll never be behind, you'll just be home. My child, now that you're walking in rhythm with me, now that your soul has begun to settle into the flow of grace, it's time for you to understand something deeply sacred. Peace doesn't just change your pace, it changes your favor. You've been conditioned to think favor comes through striving. That divine doors only open when you've proven your strength, that blessings are earned, that breakthrough requires burnout, that worth is shown in how much you can endure. But that was never my design. What the world calls favor, fame, visibility, applause, often comes at the cost of your soul. But the kind of favor I give, it's wrapped in rest. It follows peace. It moves with quiet authority, not noise, not striving, not manipulation. You've spent years chasing opportunities. You've knocked on doors that never opened. You've spoken in rooms where your voice was heard but your heart felt invisible. You've done the work, and I honor that. But now, you're not chasing anything. Now, favor will find you, because now, you're aligned. And alignment always attracts what striving cannot. This is what divine favor looks like. Doors open without you begging. Rooms receive you without you shrinking. Assignments arrive that match your healing, not your trauma. People show up who don't want your platform. They want your peace. Conversations feel easy. Opportunities feel light. You don't have to overperform to be welcomed. You'll find yourself standing in places you never strategized for. You'll hear your own words, but you'll know they didn't come from your intellect. They came from me. And you'll look around and think, how did I get here? And I'll whisper, I led you here, not because of what you did, but because of who you became in my presence. Because I don't elevate effort, I elevate identity. I bless who you are in me, not who you try to be without me. You will begin to notice that the rooms you used to compete for now feel too loud for your spirit. You will walk past counterfeit invitations because you no longer need their approval. You will feel the difference between opportunities that look good and those that carry peace. Let me make it unmistakably clear. Peace is your confirmation. If it requires your exhaustion, it is not my favor. If it demands your silence in the face of dishonor, it is not my favor. If it costs your wholeness to keep the door open, it is not my favor. True favor flows in freedom. True favor does not require you to lose yourself to be loved. True favor won't demand you trade your peace for platform. Because now you've learned, anything that pulls you out of alignment is too expensive for your soul. Let's go deeper. This season of favor will look different than what you expected. It won't be wrapped in the flashy. It won't stroke your ego. It will heal you as it uses you. You'll find joy in the simple again. You'll feel depth in the ordinary. You'll sense my hand in the subtle. And here's the beauty. You won't be moved by numbers. You won't crave the spotlight. You won't need applause to validate your voice. Why? Because you know that being known by mice enough. You're no longer chasing influence. You're carrying impact, and they're not the same. Influence can be taken. Impact is eternal. Impact comes from a heart so healed that every word carries my weight. Every action flows from overflow, not obligation. Every boundary becomes a blessing. Every no becomes a form of worship. Every silence becomes saturated with wisdom. This is what it looks like when peace becomes your platform. People may not understand. They may question why you're no longer available the way you used to be. They may wonder why your calendar is less crowded, why your energy is more guarded, and you don't have to explain. Your presence will testify. Your clarity will speak. Your lightness will reveal that something has shifted in you. And when they ask, you won't give them a self-help answer. You'll say with steady eyes, God ended what was draining me, and now I live from rest. That testimony will speak louder than any sermon you preach. Your life will become the evidence that peace is not weakness. It is warfare. And your boundaries will become prophetic lines drawn in the sand declaring, this is what heaven's rhythm looks like. Let me say something that will heal years of performance. You no longer need to be impressive. You only need to be intimate. You no longer need to have the perfect words. You only need to speak from your healed place. You no longer need to prove your growth. You only need to protect it. And as you do, favor will multiply. But it won't crush you. It will carry you. You'll have strength not because you've hardened, but because you've healed. You'll make decisions, not based on what's expected, but what's eternal. You'll say yes only when you know that I am in the yes with you. This is what divine favor feels like, and it always follows peace. So from now on, don't chase opportunity, chase alignment. Don't follow open doors, follow my voice. Because when peace goes with you, you don't just change rooms, you change atmospheres. So walk now, not with haste, but with holy awareness. The world may ask you to rush, but I've taught you to reverence. And in that reverence, you'll find the rhythm of my kingdom and the favor that follows. My child, now that favor has found you in peace. Now that you no longer equate movement with meaning, I want to give you something that religion often overlooks, that pressure often steals, that fear tries to bury. Joy. Not fleeting happiness, not circumstantial excitement, not the shallow cheer that disappears when storms arrive, but the deep, sacred joy that bubbles up in the soul like living water, even in the middle of uncertainty. Joy that remains, joy that sings while waiting, joy that dances in the unseen, joy that testifies even here he is good. Let me say something you haven't heard enough. I delight in your joy. I don't just tolerate your celebration. I designed you for it. You were made to laugh. You were made to sing, to marvel, to play, to wonder, to breathe in beauty and exhale gratitude. But somewhere along the way, joy felt irresponsible, like you needed to be serious to be faithful, like you needed to carry the weight of everyone else's pain before you could taste delight, like dancing was only allowed after deliverance. But my child, joy is not the end reward. It's part of the healing itself. Laughter is not a distraction. It's medicine. Wonder is not childish, it's childlike faith. Celebration is not indulgence, it's spiritual warfare against despair. And I want to restore your joy. I want to redeem the parts of you that stopped smiling out of survival. That quieted your creativity because life got too loud. That shelved your spontaneity because structure seemed more holy. Let me say this gently. You don't have to earn your joy. You only have to receive it. I'm giving it back to you now. I'm returning the sparkle in your eye that dimmed under pressure. I'm reviving the parts of you that haven't laughed freely in years. I'm restoring your ability to feel awe without analyzing it. I'm reawakening the creativity you silenced so you could become more useful, because I never needed you to be useful. I've always wanted you to be whole, and whole people laugh, whole people play, whole people don't just survive their calling, they enjoy it. So let's look at joy together, not as a bonus, not as a reward, but as a birthright. Do you remember how it felt when you found joy in little things? The way light danced on the wall? The unexpected kindness of a stranger? The sound of leaves under your feet? The way music made you feel weightless? None of that was random. That was me, inviting you back into presence. Because joy is one of my loudest invitations, and you are allowed to say yes to it. You are allowed to be soft again. You are allowed to play. You are allowed to waste time in wonder and call it worship. You are allowed to make beauty without needing a business plan. You are allowed to create, not for content, but for connection. You are allowed to take joy seriously, because joy is serious to me. Joy is resistance to fear. Joy is rebellion against oppression. Joy is proof that death did not win, so laugh, louder than before. Dance, even when no one is watching. Write what makes your heart race again. Paint without purpose. Speak in a voice that isn't strained with responsibility. Rest and smile just because you're allowed to. You are not selfish for delighting in your life. You are not unholy for enjoying your breath. You are not careless for choosing beauty in a world of need. You are human. You are mine. And joy is your portion. Let me make this even clearer. Joy is not optional in this new rhythm. It's essential, because you've carried sorrow so long that joy feels unfamiliar, even unsafe. But joy will not betray you. Joy will not abandon you. Joy will not laugh at your pain. It will lift you from it. Joy doesn't mean the pain never existed. It means the pain didn't get the final word. You've wept. You've surrendered. You've healed. Now, laugh. Now let joy take up space in your soul without needing to explain why. Let it take root again. You'll know it's real because it will feel light, effortless, whole. And it won't come from striving, it will come from stillness, from the quiet knowing. I am safe, I am seen, I am held, and I am allowed to enjoy being alive. Because life is no longer about managing pressure, it's about receiving presence. And where my presence is, joy is not just a possibility, it's a promise. So open wide, receive it. Let it fill you again. You are not too serious for joy. You are not too late for wonder. You are not too wounded to dance. This is the gift I'm giving now. A soul reborn in joy, a heart light enough to soar, a life no longer defined by sorrow but saturated in the sound of celebration. Let this be your anthem. I am no longer surviving. I am finally rejoicing, and I am rejoicing with you. My child, now that joy has returned, now that your soul has remembered how to breathe and celebrate, there is one final truth I want to speak deeply into your spirit. You are sent, but not like before. Not sent out of pressure, not sent to prove your worth, not sent to earn identity through impact. You are sent from wholeness, and that changes everything. You see, you used to serve from depletion, thinking that sacrifice meant being constantly empty. You used to lead from survival, believing that your value came from your performance. You used to show up tired, worn, unseen, hoping someone would notice the cost. But no more, because now, I am sending you not from your pain, but from your peace. Not from urgency, but from union with me. Not because you are trying to hold everything together, but because I have held you together. This sending is not about platform. It's about posture. It's not about proving anything. It's about pouring from overflow. It's not about being strong for others. It's about being present with me and letting that presence saturate every place you go. Let me say this plainly. You don't have to become someone else to carry what I've called you to. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be busier. You don't need to be endlessly available. You just need to be aligned with grace, aligned with peace, aligned with truth, aligned with me. And from that alignment, I will send you into rooms that once intimidated you, into conversations you thought you weren't ready for, into relationships you thought you didn't deserve, into callings that now match your healing, not your hustle. This is what it looks like when I send the healed version of you. You don't chase visibility, you carry weight. You don't grasp for relevance, you walk in reverence. You don't stretch yourself thin, you stretch your hands wide in surrender. You're not afraid of being misunderstood anymore, because wholeness has made your identity unshakable, because you know what it cost you to be this whole, because peace has made you immovable in the best way. So when I say go, you will know I mean go rooted, go grounded, go gentle, go free. You don't need to run. You don't need to fight for space. You don't need to defend your healing to anyone. Let your stillness speak. Let your boundaries preach. Let your clarity testify. Let your joy break yokes. You don't need a pulpit. You are the message. You are walking evidence that I don't just use broken people. I restore them first. You're no longer leading with your wounds. You're leading with your wellness, and from this healed posture, your words will carry precision. Your prayers will carry fire. Your presence will carry peace. Your silence will carry weight. That's what authority looks like in the kingdom of heaven. Not who shouts the loudest, but who walks in stillness without shrinking. Because you finally believe you are not defined by how much you can carry. You are defined by who carries you. Let me speak this as a final declaration over you. You are sent as a healed one, not to prove, not to perform, but to reflect my rhythm, to reflect my kindness, to reflect my wisdom, to reflect my rest, to reflect my glory not in your busyness, but in your being. You are sent as someone who knows how to pause, as someone who knows how to laugh again, as someone who knows when to say yes and when to say no. You are not returning to old rhythms. You are not revisiting the burnout path. You are not reliving the roles that almost buried you. You are walking forward now, with every step wrapped in intentionality, every decision covered in discernment, every word born from communion. This time you are not building alone. This time your soul is not the price of your assignment. This time you are not carrying me for others. You are walking with me for you. That's the difference. That's the testimony. That's the shift. So lift your head. You are not tired anymore. You are true. You are not drained anymore. You are drawn. You are not breaking anymore. You are becoming. And where you go now, peace will follow you. Where you speak now, hearts will soften. Where you lead now, systems will shift. Where you dwell now, people will encounter me, not because you're impressive, but because you're present. And my presence flows through those who are no longer performing, but abiding. So go now, my beloved. Not just filled, but overflowing. Not just released, but redefined. Not just surviving, but sent. And everywhere your healed feet touch, I will go before you. This is the divine sending, and it begins from sanctuary. My child, now that you walk as one who is sent from wholeness, now that your footsteps are steady, with peace I want to reveal something even greater, the ripple effect of your healing. You thought this journey was only about you. You thought this sanctuary I built inside you was simply a refuge for your recovery. But it is more. So much more. Because whole people don't just walk in freedom, they create it. They plant seeds, they alter atmospheres. They birth legacy. This is not just restoration for the sake of peace, it is peace that becomes a pattern for generations. You are building something now that your children won't have to undo. You are standing in the gap where cycles of burnout once passed like inheritance. You are ending what was normal for too long and releasing a new sound. The sound of rest that reverberates through time. This is what legacy looks like in my kingdom. Not endless labor, but enduring presence. Not bigger platforms, but deeper roots. Not fame, but faithfulness that multiplies. Let me say it clearly, your healing is not a detour. It is the blueprint. You're teaching others how to breathe again without even speaking. You're shifting family lines by simply saying no when pressure knocks. You're redefining success by choosing quiet obedience over loud burnout. You are not just living from sanctuary, you are becoming a sanctuary. A place where others feel safe to stop striving, where they don't have to perform, where they see joy as sacred and boundaries as love. Where presence matters more than pace. Do you see it? Every decision you make to honor peace is breaking ground for those who follow. Every time you pause to ask me, is this mine to carry? You are modeling discernment for someone else. Every moment, you rest without guilt. You are rewriting what rest looks like for those who once thought it had to be earned. This is not about attention, it's about impartation. I have placed something in you that cannot be taken, a well of stillness, and those who drink from it will be changed, not because you try to fix them, but because your life now flows with me. They will come near, and their breath will slow. They will listen, and their defenses will drop. They will ask you, how did you learn to live this way? And you will not point them to performance. You will not give them strategies. You will simply say, I stopped striving, and I stayed. And that testimony will become a map for them to find me. Because your life is no longer a collection of achievements. It is a resting place for my presence. And in that resting place, others will find refuge too. Let me remind you, the greatest impact does not come from endless action. It comes from deep abiding. It is not your busyness that makes you effective. It is your being with me that makes every small thing eternal. Even the moments that feel unseen, a gentle response, a boundary kept, a morning you chose stillness over. Scrolling. These are the bricks in the legacy I'm building with you. This is sacred work, and this is what makes you dangerous to darkness now. Because a rested soul cannot be manipulated. A healed heart cannot be hurried. A whole mind does not crumble under opinion. This is your spiritual warfare now. Staying well. You don't have to strive to break the cycle. You already have, by resting, by remaining, by refusing to return to what once stole your joy. You are proof that revival doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes it looks like peace. Sometimes it sounds like laughter. Sometimes it feels like knowing when to say, that's enough. So let me say this over you. You are a living legacy of rest. You are evidence that I restore slowly, surely, silently, until even your silence becomes healing to others. Your life is not small. It is deeply rooted, and from those roots, fruit will come. You won't need to force it. You won't need to rush it. You won't need to brand it. It will simply be there, joyfully growing, because you stayed in the soil of my presence. So continue. Continue to live unhurried. Continue to speak softly. Continue to guard the quiet within. Continue to believe that your slowness is holy. And trust me when I say, this is how legacies are born. Not through noise, but through nurture. Not through performance, but through presence. Not through burnout, but through becoming a well others can draw from. You are that well now. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present and I dwell in you. So let this be your rhythm forever. Healed, held, whole, and never hurrying again. My child, now that your healing has become a home, now that your stillness speaks louder than your striving ever did, I want to invite you into the final mystery of this journey, the echo of eternity within you. Because this sanctuary I've built in your soul was never just for relief. It was always to awaken you to the greater truth, that you are not just healed for earth. You are being prepared for glory. You carry eternity now, not just as a hope for one day, but as a current reality that pulses through your presence, your rest, your joy, your peace. Heaven isn't just a destination, it's the dwelling place I've made in you. Every time you choose rest over rush, you are echoing eternity. Every time you pause to breathe me in, you are aligning with heaven's rhythm. Every time you walk away from noise to sit in quiet with me, you are announcing, this world is not my source. You carry a divine contradiction now. Peace in chaos, stillness in motion, clarity in uncertainty. That's not because you've mastered life. It's because eternity is mastering you. You were made to host my spirit. Not occasionally, not just when you feel spiritual, but always. You've been so conditioned to seek me through effort that you forgot I'm already inside you. Do you understand the weight of that? The God of heaven lives in you. The one who holds the galaxies also holds your emotions. The one who commands oceans also sits quietly in your ribcage waiting for you to remember. He's here, right here. You don't need to climb mountains to find me. You don't need to strain your voice to hear me. You don't need to build ladders of discipline just to touch my robe. I'm already within you, and the more you honor my presence within, the more you begin to reflect my nature without. This is the real fruit of wholeness. You become a mirror of eternity in everyday spaces. You begin to carry peace into grocery stores. You bring gentleness into conversations that used to trigger you. You carry wisdom that silences confusion. You no longer react, you respond, because the eternal now governs the temporal. You begin to live like someone who knows they've already been filled by something deeper than success. You don't need a stage. You don't need recognition. You don't even need certainty, because you have communion. That's what eternity inside you produces. A holy indifference to things that once shook you. You know who you are now. You know where your source comes from. You know that what you carry cannot be taken. This is what makes you unshakable. Not hardness, but holiness. Not invincibility, but intimacy. You don't carry armor. You carry access. You don't speak from performance, you speak from presence, and your presence now carries an echo. Not your ego, not your effort, but eternity. This is why the world feels different now. Not because it changed, but because you did. You no longer crave the things that used to validate you. You no longer feel pulled to explain yourself. You no longer apologize for your pace, you simply abide, you simply remain, and the world can feel it. Let me show you what that looks like. You walk into a room and anxiety bows. You speak slowly and hearts soften. You rest fully, and others remember that rest is allowed. You love without needing to be needed. You serve without losing yourself. You pray not to impress, but because your breath and my name are becoming one. That's eternity echoing inside of you. That's what this entire journey has been about. Not about becoming better, not about accomplishing more, not about proving you're spiritual, but about becoming aware, about living every moment as if heaven were already within you, because it is. So now let me ask you, can you live like this was always the goal? Not the applause, not the influence, not the answers, but this level of communion, where silence is sacred, where peace is a practice, where my presence is no longer a moment, but your environment. Let me tell you something holy. You don't have to go back to your old life. You are allowed to keep this pace. You are allowed to remain light. You are allowed to be different now. Let others keep chasing. You'll keep abiding. Let others keep rushing. You'll keep listening. Let others keep proving. You'll keep reflecting. Because the echo of eternity in you is louder than any demand. And this is the kind of life that shakes hell without raising your voice. So here is my final word in this part of our journey. Live like the sanctuary has been built. Because it has. It's you. You are no longer surviving. You are no longer performing. You are no longer silently fading. You are whole. You are filled. You are kept. And now, you live with the echo of eternity ringing through every breath, every choice, every step. This is the divine life. The sanctuary has become your soul. And I am forever dwelling with you, not just in crisis, but in the calm. Not just in your calling, but in your core. You are not what the world made you. You are what I formed you to be. A living sanctuary. A walking echo of heaven. A holy resting place even for others. And from here, you'll never go back. You are filled. You are safe. You are free. My child, now that you walk with the echo of eternity inside you, now that my presence has become your dwelling place, I want to speak to something that still lingers, something subtle but powerful. The temptation to leave what we've built. Not because you want to, but because the world will try to pull you out of sanctuary with invitations that sound like responsibility, expectations that look like opportunity, and voices that subtly say, "You're ready now. You can go back to doing more." But I'm here to say, more is not the next chapter. Remaining is. Because remaining takes courage. Courage to resist the familiar. Courage to stay rooted when others run. Courage to stay soft when pressure returns. Courage to say, "This version of me doesn't move like that anymore." Remaining means trusting me enough to believe that I'll still move, even when you don't. It means letting me carry the weight while you carry wonder. Because wonder was stolen from you once, by overcommitment, by pressure dressed up as purpose, by a rhythm that demanded your obedience but ignored your humanity. But now that sanctuary has been restored, you're going to need courage to protect it. Not the kind of courage that fights in public, but the kind that guards peace in private. Let me remind you, you are no longer bound to urgency. You are no longer responsible for keeping everything together. You are no longer required to say yes, just because you're needed. Your healing came with a new assignment, to remain. To remain in rest when chaos calls. To remain in joy when sadness would be easier. To remain in stillness when momentum feels more measurable. To remain in my presence when noise tries to promise faster results. That's the kind of courage I'm forming in you now. Courage that doesn't need recognition. Courage that doesn't fear obscurity. Courage that doesn't confuse movement for maturity. Because here is what few will understand. Remaining is radical. It is radical to stop proving. Radical to say no without guilt. Radical to protect what brings life, instead of returning to what brings applause. You're not being left behind, you're being set apart. And when you are set apart, your assignments change, your appetites shift, your access deepens. What once fulfilled you no longer feeds you, because now, only my presence satisfies. That's why you felt the pull to slow down again, to simplify even further, to say no to even good things. That's my spirit reminding you. You don't have to go back to exhaustion to prove that you've healed. You don't have to say yes to show that you're strong again. You don't have to open your schedule to be considered faithful. Your faithfulness now is in your fruitfulness, and fruit doesn't grow by force, it grows by abiding. Let me give you this image. A tree doesn't strain to bear fruit. It remains planted. It soaks in sun and rain. It draws from its roots. And in season, without striving, it blooms. That's you now. That's the season you're entering, one of effortless fruitfulness, one where your yes is so rooted in peace that your no becomes holy. So let me help you protect this sanctuary. When urgency rises, ask, is this my assignment, or is this my old pattern? When someone demands your time, ask, will giving this cost me the peace I just reclaimed? When the need to explain returns, remember, silence is not weakness, it is wisdom when peace is already speaking. And when fear whispers, what if I fall behind, respond boldly, I've been rerouted in the eternal. There is no behind when I walk in alignment. This courage to remain will not always be celebrated by others, but it will be recognized by heaven. Because I see your resistance to rush. I see the restraint it takes to stay rooted. I see how hard it is to walk slowly in a world that applauds speed. And I say to you, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the boundaries you keep. I'm proud of the gentleness you've reclaimed. I'm proud of the moments you worshipped with your schedule, not just your song. I'm proud of how you have redefined success as staying near me, not running ahead of me. That's the kind of courage that shakes darkness, quietly, without announcement, without striving, just by remaining. So stay in peace, stay in presence, stay in rhythm, stay whole, stay soft, stay rooted. This is not stagnation. This is stewardship. This is how the sanctuary within you stays sacred. You are not a servant of pressure anymore. You are a keeper of peace, a guardian of grace, a resting place of my spirit. And if the world calls you slow, let heaven call you steady. Because in the end, it won't be the hurried ones who change the world. It will be the ones who had the courage to remain in me and bear fruit that never fades. My child, now that you have learned the courage to remain, now that your soul no longer bows to pressure, I want to speak to your identity. Not the one shaped by survival, but the one I've always known. You have a new name now. Not because I'm changing who you are, but because I'm revealing who you've always been beneath the noise. The name I whispered over you before anyone gave you a label. The name I called you before trauma gave you titles. The name I still use even when you forget who you are. This name isn't a job. It isn't a gift. It isn't a role you play for others. It's not the responsible one, or the strong one, or the peacemaker, or the one who holds everything together. No, this name is softer, truer, eternal. You are mine. Not because you work for me, not because you earned it, not because you always get it right, but because I chose you before you could choose me. That's your name. Chosen, held and known, loved, home. You are not who grief made you. You are not who exhaustion molded you into. You are not who pressure required. You are who presence restored. And now that you carry this name, I want to teach you a new way of moving in the world, one that no longer comes from, how do I measure up, but from, I already belong. This is the new way. You walk into rooms with no need to impress. You no longer shrink to keep others comfortable. You no longer overextend to prove you're helpful. You stop performing empathy for people who only noticed your usefulness. You breathe deeper. You speak slower. You trust that what you carry is not based on popularity, but on proximity to me. You no longer apologize for resting. You no longer confuse tension with truth. You no longer rush to fix what I never asked you to carry. Because, this new name means you can move through the world without fear of rejection. You can show up as you, not as a version you curated to be accepted. That's the kind of confidence I want to anchor you in. Not arrogance, not perfection. Just steady, grounded, spirit-led confidence that comes from finally believing, I don't have to earn my belonging. That belief changes everything. It silences the critic. It calms the heart. It breaks the addiction to applause. It ends the toxic need to be needed. You are no longer defined by how well you carry others. You are now defined by how well you are carried by me. And I carry you constantly, through every quiet morning you give me, through every boundary you draw, through every time you choose honesty over hiding, through every tear that still falls without a full explanation. I carry you. And because I carry you, you can walk freely. So let's talk about this new way. This new way will feel unfamiliar at first. It won't feel productive. It won't feel performative. It will feel quiet, sacred, strangely light. And the world will try to convince you to take your old name back, to pick up the pressure again, to carry the weight you were never built for. But I will remind you, you are no longer that version. You are no longer the person who says yes to avoid being alone. You are no longer the one who burns out to be seen. You are no longer the one who hides behind service because silence felt scary. You are now someone who is rooted, reclaimed, redeemed. You are becoming someone who can sit in stillness and not feel ashamed. Someone who can say, I don't know, and still feel worthy. Someone who can walk away from what is loud and choose what is light. This is the way of the sanctuary, and this way leads to deep peace. So let me speak this blessing over your new name. May you walk slowly. May you speak truthfully. May you protect your peace like the sacred treasure it is. May you remember that saying no can be holy. May you trust that unseen obedience is powerful. May you find joy in small places and rest even when the world keeps running. May your steps echo heaven's rhythm. May your eyes see through urgency. May your soul stay soft when fear tries to harden it. And when the old names call again, when exhaustion tries to whisper that you're falling behind, when perfectionism dresses itself as responsibility, when the need to be more returns, remember, you don't answer to those names anymore. You answer to mine. Beloved, whole, healed, held, home. You are not becoming someone new. You are returning to the original, the real you, the free you. So go gently, go lightly, go bravely. You carry my name now, and my name is not burden, it is beauty. My child, now that you wear my name, not as a task, but as a truth. Now that you walk in this new way, unrushed, unshaken, unafraid, I want to take you into the final silence. Not the silence of distance, not the silence of confusion, but the holy silence where glory rests. You see, there is a stillness deeper than recovery. There is a quiet beyond clarity. There is a hush where your soul no longer waits for answers because it has become the answer. I am with you. This silence is not empty. It is full. It is the silence that hovered over the waters before creation. The silence where I whispered light into existence. The silence that stood between my last breath on the cross and the stone rolling away. The silence where miracles are born and where movements begin. And now that you've returned to yourself, now that sanctuary lives in your ribcage, I am inviting you to dwell in this silence. Not briefly, but as a lifestyle. You've said enough. You've done enough. You've climbed, stretched, obeyed, poured, endured. Now, Be still. Let me speak where words have stopped. Let me hold you where performance once pushed. Let me sit beside you without agenda. Because the glory I give is not just for public moments. It rests in the private, in the quiet, in the posture of your being. Do you feel it? Not the glory of applause, but the glory of awareness. That nothing more needs to be added. That you are already surrounded, already known, already touched by the eternal. This is what many miss. That my presence doesn't just descend when you lift your voice, but when you lower your defenses, when you open your hands, when you stop trying to earn what was always yours, when you no longer hustle for love, but receive it like breath. This is glory, and this is where you will remain. No striving, no noise, just knowing. Let me tell you what lives here, in this final silence. Here, your memory is healed. The grief that used to control your pace is now quieted by my closeness. Here, your vision returns. Not visions born from striving, but those birthed from alignment. Here, your creativity is revived. Not to perform, but to play again. To wonder, to dream without fear of delay. To create not from demand, but from delight. Here, your identity is never in question, because this silence doesn't echo with the voices of critics, but with my whisper. You're mine, still mine, always mine. Here you are no longer rebuilding from brokenness, you are expanding from wholeness. You are no longer praying for rescue, you are resting in residence, because I live here in you, and I am never leaving. So what now? What do you do after survival has ended, after sanctuary has been built, after your name has been restored? You dwell. You build nothing out of pressure. You say yes only when peace leads. You say no without guilt. You speak only from overflow. You love without needing to be needed. You breathe slowly. You walk gently. You forgive freely. You enjoy deeply. You are now the living evidence that my glory rests on people, not because they performed for it, but because they received it. You are now the resting place of everything this world is chasing. And when people come near, they won't know how to describe what they feel. They'll just say, "There's something about you." And you'll know what it is. It's the final silence. It's the sanctuary of God. It's the sound of glory that doesn't need volume to speak. It's the weight of peace that makes people breathe deeper. It's the presence of heaven housed in a healed life. So I say to you, not as a servant, not as a struggler, not as someone still fighting to be seen, but as my beloved, it is finished. The drain is over. The guilt is broken. The striving has stopped. The name has been restored. The rhythm has been rewritten. The sanctuary has been built. And now you live. Not to perform, but to reflect. Not to rush, but to remain. Not to prove, but to abide. You are free. You are home. You are finally filled.